All right, another patron request, this time for Amanda Kleinfelter, who has joined my Patreon in the last week. So she's getting one quick. She picked Identity. This is currently streaming on Crackle, which I never use. I think I own this movie somewhere in here. I just didn't feel like looking for it last night because the way I have this set up, these are double road, and I just don't want to dig through them. It is a pain in the ass. If you guys remember my old setup, I had them all single road across the entire wall. It was beautiful, but in this place, this is the corner of the room that I'm allowed from where I live right now. So it was I had to fit everything within this parameter, and it's off the ground, right here. This is on a table, and this doesn't even go down. It's annoying. So I think I do own this, but I wasn't going to search for it last night, so I just watched it on Crackle. I was very excited when she picked this because I think this movie is fantastic. This movie does not get enough credit, does not get enough attention, because I feel like it's on that same level as a Sixth Sense or something, with a big twist and lots of great actors and whatever. I don't know, man. I feel like this one just gets overshadowed by other movies like it, and I don't get it. I don't understand why, because it's so fucking great. It really is. I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times now, and on this watch, I was really wow, this movie is fantastic. Truly. This movie's awesome. I can't imagine what someone wouldn't like about this. I mean, they exist. I don't care. You name a movie, I will find you fucking 20 people who hate it. Everybody, every movie has haters, but I just genuinely can't figure out. If you're into these kinds of movies, if you're into thriller, whodunit, psychological horror, how could you dislike this movie? I genuinely could not figure that out. But anyway, all right, so this cast, I actually had to write it down because there's so many damn people, and I didn't even write down everybody. John Cusack, Ray Liotta, Amanda Peet, John Hawkes, John McKinley, Clea Duvall, Alfred Molina, Rebecca De Mornay, Jake Busey. It's just, this cast is insane. And then it's got freaking Schneider, Coach Schneider, who's always got to stick up his ass from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which want to talk about an overlooked movie that isn't appreciated enough. Ha! You guys know how much I love that damn movie. So yeah, of course we're going to be talking spoilers like a motherfucker here, but for some reason you haven't seen this movie. You don't know the twists. You don't know that stuff. You're into psychological whodunit type horror. Oh my goodness, shut this off right now. Do not spoil it for yourself. It's amazing. Go and watch it right the fuck now. Crackle's free. You don't even have an excuse. Oh, I can't afford. No. Okay, go watch it. All right, so now spoilers from here. So shut it off if you haven't seen it. So I have to take this review differently a little bit because, okay, usually when I'm talking about characters and what's happening to them within the narrative, within the story, everything's happening for real. So, of course, what happens to characters is sad or it's, devastating or whatever. But with this, because of the reveal towards the end that all these characters don't actually exist, but then I guess that's debatable. In his head, they actually exist. And these people have their own personalities. They have their own handwriting. They have their own everything. And he literally has to kill them in his head. Are these characters real? Are these real people? Do you believe in multiple personality disorder? And if you do, is each one of those people genuinely a person? And if you were to kill them off in your mind like he does, is that person dying? Did we actually watch 10 people die in this movie? It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. Split personality disorder, do I believe it exists? Yeah, I am always very skeptical of mental conditions, like ones that people can plead insanity for when they're, insane, and they're just like, oh, I murdered people, but I was insane, so you can't really hold me accountable. And it's like, well, if you were insane and you thought what you were doing wasn't all that wrong, then why'd you hide the bodies? Why did you live a completely, normal life outside and then hide the truth if you were crazy? Like, I always just struggle with that kind of stuff, but split personality disorder, like the whole Sybil thing, yeah, I mean, I'm apt to believe it, especially with all the proof of, like, different handwritings and different, shit changes. And I think the best movie recently that we've gotten on this subject is the movie Split. And I also really liked Glass as well. Speaking of M. Night Shyamalan. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I do have to wonder if we're taking these characters and what's happening in his head in this situation. This is how he's been able to deal with it. He puts these characters here. So what I was going to say is, in the opening, we have this kid. And I think each one of these characters, if I sat down and I really thought about each one of them individually to try to see why these characters exist within his head. Why has it fractured off and made these characters specifically? What from his past are these, coming from? Like, we'll take some obvious ones here, like the prostitute, the whore, as John Hawkes' character so rudely calls her in this. That's the job you want to take, and that's what you do. I mean, technically, you are a whore, right? That's the definition of that. You're fucking people for money. But I would say that it's very obvious his mother was extremely abusive. I think they even say that, like, in the opening stuff. Which with killers, their mother's always abusive. I would think that both his mom and his stepfather get hit by cars in his head. So did his parents die by getting hit by a car? The fact that his stepfather and his mother both die from car wrecks, both getting hit by. And then I said we have the Rebecca De Mornay's character, which is the oldest woman in the movie, which would be like the mom figure of the crew of the motley crew here that we have assembled. Killing the mom off first from some traumatic events from a child's past. You'd want to off them first. You've got the whore who would probably be the slutty mom who was a prostitute. You've got the convicts, two kind of personality convicts, which is kind of like how he is. You've got all these different characters. You got cops. You got one who was a cop. You got one, who's pretending to be a cop. I don't know where that would come from. So I was trying to look at the characters and be like, and then you got John Hawkes' character who hates whores. He hates sluts, and he can't forgive them, which would make sense since he hates his mother, who he sees as a whore. So I was really trying to focus on the characters and be like, why? And then you got the teen relationship of the girl faking a pregnancy. I mean, maybe those were fights that he saw his mom and her boyfriend have. I don't know. Like, it was fun to kind of try to pick those things apart. Anyway, but yeah, this kid he sees his mom hit by a car, but of course we see that he's the killer, which makes perfect sense in the end. I mean, I'm jumping all over the place here, but it makes perfect sense because it's the little boy in him. It's what was done to him as a child by his mother that this is all stemmed from. That's where all of this anger came from. It's the little boy in him that wants revenge. It makes perfect sense that the little boy is the killer because the little boy has all the reasons to be the killer. He's the one who went through it all. That is this character's real true self still in there. And when he fractured into all these personalities, that kid kind of stayed frozen in time in there. Still angry, still resentful, still hateful. So for him to be the killer, that's what I love about this movie, is the reveal of who the killer actually is and how much it makes sense to me just knowing what I'm kind of filling in with this kid being abused by his mother and whatnot. Love that about it. Absolutely love that. And George, which is played by John C. McClinley here, which, I'm so used to him being from freaking Scrubs and being the fast-talking dick. To see him kind of like as an OCD, autistic kind of guy, kind of reminds me of the character we see strapped to the wheelchair, or the whatever the hell he's in, the real killer, the real guy that's out there. He's very off like that. So I feel like he's the most similar to the actor. Shifty eyes, as I always call him. This guy is a fat guy with the shifty eyes. So fast. And oh man, I mean, it's just, there's so many great moments. There's so many great characters. I love when Cusack hits the mom. It's so brutal, and then like Rebecca De Mornay is like, "No, you can't go out there. You're gonna take blame or whatever." And he's like, "This is my problem," and he like jumps out of the car. Like he's the heart of the movie. He's the good guy of the movie, and that's the character that we see kind of as the focal point of the movie. I'd say he's the main protagonist of the film. And I feel like he's the last line of defense in his head. He's the last good person left in him. And once he's killed off, then no one's safe. Because all that's left is Amanda Peet's character. And she's just, she has her troubles, and she's not really the one who's going to defend off this little kid. So once Cusack's dead, it's kind of like, uh-oh. Of course, how did they heard what he was saying out loud, and having to assume that those people were really killed off. Like, would they buy it? It seems very elaborate. I can only imagine so many people rolling their eyes like, oh my God, you guys really dreamt this one up. But I try not to focus too much on what's happening outside. I'll focus some bit on that. But I do really like this story inside. I love when they start finding the keys and it's counting down. It's like 10, 9, 8. Love that. It's just that perfect little plot device to like get that mystery intrigue of like, what the fuck? And then when like, the bodies start disappearing, when McClinley's character gets like hit and like ran right into the whatever the hell, it's a trash can? I don't know what it is. It's just brutal. And this kid has to watch his stepfather get hit by that. We find out, of course, at the end that he was the one who lured him out there to kill him. But yeah, like when the bodies start disappearing, the gore in this is actually pretty good at times. Like the head of Rebecca De Mornay, the way they get hit by cars and smashed in. And I thought, it's not overly gory, but the effects in it, the bat down the throat, Jake Busey's character, all that stuff. I thought that was also all really, really good. And the fact that the hotel is on loop, I think, is like your first real clue of like what the hell's going on here. Like Jake Busey, the convict character, tries to escape, and he goes over the ridge and he sees a hotel out in the distance, and when he comes in, it's just the kitchen on the backside, and he's looking at it and he's like, what the fuck? And they find him and catch him. That's your, they're in some kind of purgatory, they're in some kind of this and that. And then of course we find out John Hawkes. Oh man, I love John Hawkes. If you've not seen the Elizabeth Olsen movie with him, the Mary Marlene fucking something, 4 M names in a row. He does a song in that. Google it, YouTube it. It's fantastic, man. Love his voice. Love the music of it. He has one where he performs the whole thing like acoustically in a little studio there. Watch that. Awesome stuff. He's a great musician. But yeah, like his character, man, comes in, finds a dead body. There's so many things pointing to him that it's him. There's a lot of red herrings in this movie. Like everyone has motive. Everyone looks guilty. He looks the most guilty for sure. He's got a fucking body in the freezer. He's stealing stuff from people. It's his bat down the convict's throat. It's like, it's so obviously him, and Leota's just like, it's him, it's so obvious. And then we find out, of course, Leota There's so many twists in this movie. Every 5 minutes you get a new twist that's just awesome. I don't feel like any twist in this movie is too much. And it should be. There's so many twists in this movie. There's so many moments of like, oh shit. That it should be like, okay, come on, how many more can there be? And then it's revealed that nothing is actually even really happening. It's all in a dude's head after how many twists are happening within the head. Although I guess technically that could kind of excuse how many twists there are because it is taking place inside a guy's head, not actually happening in reality. But once bodies start actually disappearing and no blood, no sign of them ever being there, I think you're probably clued in and that there's something more supernatural at stake here than than realistic. So it does make sense there. The killer gets a stay of execution, so they do obviously buy into it. I love when she's digging at the end and she finds her key. Just such a great way to end it, and turns around and the guy breaks free. Alfred Molina's character opens up the things like, what's wrong? And boom, idiot. Why isn't he fucking more properly restrained than that? But yeah, he gets free, and here we go again. He's out there. Love the creepy kid chanting at the end of this. Awesome stuff. There's so much to love. Everyone plays their characters so well. Clea Duvall as the hysteric girlfriend. She's awesome. Freaking Rebecca De Mornay as the extremely unlikable, aging actress bitch. Like, everybody plays their roles perfectly. All the twists are so well done. The atmosphere of it is so excellent. I can't say a damn bad thing about the movie. I really have zero complaints. I mean, none. It's just fabulous. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Amanda, thanks for the recommendation. Thank you for the donations on Patreon. If you want me to review something for you, go on over to Patreon. There will be a link in the description below for you to check it out. You can donate, and it will help the channel, and you get to control me like a puppet. All right? Adios.